Hello, my friends. Today, the situation on the front lines is very difficult, so let's jump straight into the Kostiantynivka direction because for several days in a row now, we've been seeing consistent Russian advances there. They've managed to push forward both toward Bila Hora and in the area of Yablunivka. After fully capturing these villages, they are now approaching Kostiantynivka from two sides, and the activity is not decreasing. Today, assaults continue on Pretechene and Alexandru Shultine. Russian forces are also pushing through the fields from Toretsk toward Plashiivka and storming Poltavka. The situation here is gradually worsening, but the Ukrainian forces are still holding the line as best they can. Soldiers on the ground describe the situation like this: what we can expect to happen in the Konstantinivka direction during this Russian offensive. Here are my personal thoughts. The Russians are attacking from several directions, mainly from the Pokrovsk side, trying to stretch our defense and break through between Konstantinivka and Drushkivka. Their goal is to encircle or at least place Konstantinivka under fire control, which would open the way to Kramatorsk and Slovyansk. Right now, they have made gains near Popov Yar, Yablunivka, and closer to the Klebanbyk reservoir. They've entrenched themselves on some high ground there. Currently, they're actively using assault groups with armored support, especially along the flanks, trying to bypass our fortified positions. Their main intent is to cut off Kostiantynivka or put it into a semi-encirclement, creating pressure from the southwest and forcing us to retreat. From there, they aim to reach Drushkivka, and that would be the doorstep to the Slavyansk-Kramatorsk agglomeration, a key hub in Donbas. As of tonight, our soldiers are holding on, but the situation is getting worse every day. I believe if we don't stop the Russians in the coming weeks, Kostiantynivka could become the next Avdiivka, surrounded and forcing either a brutal defense or a fighting withdrawal. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians continue assaulting Volodymyrivka and advancing near Novotoretsk and Novoekonomichne. There are reports of attacks around the town of Rodinsk. Fighting is also ongoing in the areas of Lysyivka, Chumyshine, and on the outskirts of Pokrovsk near Kotlene. Russian forces are storming Udachne and Novopidgorodny as well. The situation here is critical, but it seems the Ukrainian forces have started to stabilize it, even though we don't have official confirmation. The Russian side claims that Ukrainian forces have launched counterattacks and are pushing them back near the village of Razine. We are still waiting on confirmation, but that would be very good news. If Ukrainian forces can eliminate the Russian salient near Rodinsk, the overall situation will improve. That said, activity in this area remains extremely high, over 50 assaults in just the last 24 hours. In the Novopavlivka direction, Russian forces are storming Muravka and pushing toward Novopavlivka through the fields. Fighting continues on the outskirts of Oleksiivka. However, previous reports of Russian control over the village of Zeleny High remain unconfirmed, so for now we are waiting for new information on that area. In the Velyka Novosilka direction, the Russians have captured parts of Voskresenka and Maliivka. The advance here is significant, and Russian telegram channels are celebrating the fact that their troops are now moving into Dnipropetrovsk region. Unfortunately, this is true. They are continuing to advance, and for now, Ukrainian forces haven't been able to stop them. Fighting also continues in the area of Temerivka, but the situation there remains unchanged. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, Russian forces are shelling the entire frontline zone and pushing forward in the area of Kamiansk, already reaching Stepnohirsk. While the Ukrainian side hasn't officially confirmed this, Russian war correspondents are claiming that assaults on Stepnohirsk have already begun. The Russian army is storming Stepnohirsk and finishing off the Ukrainians in Plavni, advancing along the Zaporizhzhia front. According to war reporters, after capturing Kamiansk, Russian troops broke into Stepnohirsk a few days ago and were spotted on video near the local music school by Friday. New footage now shows Russian forces occupying apartment buildings in Stepnohirsk. Russian units are also clearing neighboring Plavni. While some channels reported the full capture of Plavni, local officers deny this. A small part of the settlement in the north remains under Ukrainian control. Ukrainian analysts admit the Russians have entered an active offensive phase along this front. Meanwhile, Ukrainian units are reportedly launching counterattacks and heavy clashes continue. We're still waiting to see how the situation develops, but there is already confirmation that Russian forces are breaking into another city, which is a very bad sign. It means the Ukrainian military hasn't yet been able to stop the advance, and they are now moving north, getting closer to the city of Zaporizhzhia itself. In the Kherson direction, Russian forces are trying to push through around Oleshke, and on the river islands, they continue shelling the right bank of the Dnipro. Despite their high activity, they haven't been able to advance further in the past 24 hours, and there have been no confirmed changes along the front line. Now, let's move to the Siversk direction. Here, Russian forces are trying to break through around the village of Grigorivka, but they haven't had any success. After a period of high activity, the situation has stabilized again. No major offensive operations have been recorded in the past day. In the Lyman direction, Russian troops continue their intense offensive efforts, carrying out over 20 assaults in just 24 hours. They attacking Zarychne, Kolodyazi, Shandrigolove, pushing over the area near Karpivka, and also assaulting Novy Mir and Druzhelyubivka. However, there have been no changes in the front line over the past day, and Ukrainian forces have managed to repel all attacks so far. In the Borova direction, Russian forces are assaulting Boguslavka and Zeleny High, but activity remains relatively low and the front line hasn't changed. In the Kupyansk direction, Russian troops are attacking Redkivka and attempting to break through near Myrne, toward the outskirts of Kupyansk. However, the Ukrainian forces continue to repel the attacks, and there have been no changes to the front line over the past day. That said, Ukrainian soldiers report that Russian activity is increasing, and Russia may intensify its offensive on Kupyansk. Additionally, Ukrainian forces have reported that Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups are infiltrating Kupyansk, though they have been successfully countered for now, making the situation very tense. In the Dvorichne direction, Russian forces are trying to break through from the Krasnopersha area toward Novovasilivka. However, activity here is not particularly intense, and all attacks have been successfully repelled so far. In the Kharkiv direction, Russian forces have temporarily halted all assaults, and no changes to the front line were recorded in the past 24 hours. In Vovchansk, fighting continues with renewed Russian attempts to storm Staritsa. However, Ukrainian forces are holding the line, and the situation remains stable for now. In the Sumy direction, offensive activity has already started to decrease. Today, attacks are only reported near Oleksiivka, Yunakivka, and close to the border. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian forces continue counterattacks, and there is a chance that the Russians will soon have to retreat again here. Russian sources claim that the Ukrainian forces are already storming Oleksiivka. Overall, the Russians are sharing very interesting information, especially about the Ukrainian reserves that are now launching an offensive. Be sure to share your thoughts about this in the comments. Meanwhile, Trump today, instead of helping Ukraine, keeps making money. The biggest deal ever. Trump announced a trade agreement with the European Union. Both sides set tariffs at 15% just days before the American president's August 1st deadline, after which tariffs would have increased to 30%. According to the deal, the European Union also agreed to buy $750 billion worth of energy products from the US and invest $600 billion in military equipment and market openings. In fact, Trump is now happy that US military factories will run at full capacity, producing military equipment for Europe, which in turn will send it to Ukraine. Friends, don't forget to share your opinion about this in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.